Is rape really starting to be decriminalised due to a decline in prosecutions? How your status in society affects your punishments as a footballer gets a community order for doing what others have been locked up for. West Yorkshire Police won't review pursuit tactics even after a 6-year-old girl gets hit by a car being chased by police. Pre-convictions. Ultimately being convicted before being convicted, as North Wales Police grant its first stalking prevention order. This and more coming up. Don't forget, these reports are daily, Monday to Friday. Please remember to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you do appreciate the work I do and understand that these topics result in little to no YouTube monetisation, please consider joining the channel Patreon for as little as just £3 a month to help me continue providing this content. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan and welcome back to another PAP Reports. It's Wednesday, July the 15th, 2020. Dame Vera Baird, the Victims Commissioner for England and Wales, has spoken up and said that rape is effectively being decriminalised due to a catastrophic decline in prosecutions. An annual report completed by Vera found that the fall in convictions coincided with prosecutors reportedly being told to adopt a touch on the tiller against prosecuting weak cases. This ultimately gives false readings to the numbers because it boosts conviction rates. She said the number of cases has collapsed by more than half, from 3,671 in the year ending March 2017 to 1,758 in the year ending March 2019. She added it was a shocking and unacceptable fact that 3% of rape complaints resulted in a charge in 2019, adding what is even more shocking is that this figure is likely to fall even further into 2020. In effect, what we are witnessing is the decriminalisation of rape. In doing so, we are failing to give justice to thousands of complainants. In some cases, we are enabling persistent predatory sex offenders to go on to reoffend in the knowledge that they are highly unlikely to be held to account. Vera went on to say that the Crown Prosecution Services denies a change of prosecution policy, but so far has failed to offer any convincing explanation to account for the fall in the number of cases being prosecuted. Nor have they put forward any plans to address it, she says. If the Crown Prosecution Service is unwilling or unable to deal with this failure effectively to prosecute rape, then a government must act. The current situation cannot be allowed to continue. The fall in prosecutions also seems to coincide with the controversial consent forms that were brought into play by the National Police Chiefs Council to allow police to examine the mobile phones of rape victims. The practice was initiated, it was said, to standardise practice across all forces, but the Information Commissioner's Office concluded that they should be withdrawn last month following an investigation. Dame Vera Baird's report went on to say that in the 15 months since the notices were introduced, charities have reported hundreds of rape complainants who have been forced to hand over personal data in fear of otherwise being denied justice. In some cases, their assailant is completely unknown to them, making it impossible to understand why examining the data on their phone is considered to be a reasonable line of inquiry. Hundreds more will have shrunk from the intrusion demanded into their privacy and that of their families, and as a result there have been instances where otherwise strong cases have been dropped. It's sickening that the police is hard on for intelligence. Even that which is of no consequence to the allegations should allow crimes to not be investigated and allow those victims of those horrendous crimes to go without justice. Now, I think it's important to say that I do understand that some allegations are malicious, but that's even more reason for the police to still try and do their best rather than make the decision not to investigate. I've said it before, maybe if the police stuck to dealing with crimes that cause physical harm, loss or damage rather than simply hurting someone's feelings, they'd have more police to deal with the real crimes rather than continuing to use the tired old line of not enough resources. Tuesday we spoke about face masks briefly and I gave my opinion on the matter. That opinion caused a bit of a stir in the comments, to be fair, which of course is a good thing, because getting people talking and sharing opinions is one of the aims of this channel under freedom of expression. I do, however, want to point out that my opinions are my own, and that disclaimer is in several places on this channel, and I always try to make viewers aware when I'm giving an opinion over giving facts or information garnered from elsewhere. I think that some people got a bit annoyed with my opinion on Tuesday because they didn't agree, and this is not about calling people out for that. I just wanted to remind people that I will always respect other people's opinions. I've no issue with people's opinions being in contradiction to my own. In fact, I still try to engage with as many people as possible to discuss these differences of opinions without mocking people or shouting them down. I just want to ask all viewers to try and remember that we all have differences of opinions, whether we agree with them or not. It's not our place to lambast or try to ridicule people for them. Most, if not all of you, seem to believe in freedom of expression, which is great, but we need to remember that freedom of expression extends to everyone, and we should always expect those who are willing to share and discuss their opinions. I'm not so bothered about those who want to shout people down for an opinion that they don't agree with, but those who are mature enough to put their opinions out there for debate certainly get my respect. Anyway, talking of face masks, it seems the left hand still doesn't know what the right hand is doing, as police forces across the country continue to complain that they can't or don't know how to enforce the face covering rules, while the government, specifically Matt Hancock, tells shop workers to call the police if customers refuse to wear them. Hancock told the Commons face coverings can help to protect shop assistants and restore the confidence of shoppers. However, he said those who did not have a valid reason not to wear a face mask should be expelled from shops. He told MPs, just as with public transport, children under 11 and those with certain disabilities will be exempt. The liability for wearing a face covering lies with the individual. Should an individual without an exemption refuse to wear a face covering, the shop can refuse them entry and can call the police if people refuse to comply. The police have formal enforcement powers and can issue a fine, he said. You see, but I see a problem with this, because much like other situations where people are encouraged to call the police over a difference of opinion or because someone simply doesn't like another person, I can see this being abused and many people being fined unlawfully. Personally, I do have asthma. I have sleep apnea, which, although generally affects you when you're asleep or in a resting state, is not something that is only there when you get into bed. It's part of another underlying issue. Now, if I went into a shop without a face covering, my personal and private medical conditions are nobody else's business but mine and my doctor's. Therefore, if I choose not to disclose my medical conditions, which I'm perfectly entitled to keep private, I could be faced with a risk of not being allowed to shop. I could be faced with a risk of confrontation with some jumped up store worker or with a member of the public. I could then, by virtue of that, be at risk of being issued a fixed penalty notice by police, none of which is fair or lawful for that matter, and could lead to similar scenes as we're seeing emerging from the USA. In fact, a row over face masks in Michigan the other day resulted in a fatal shooting by police after a suspect attacked a 77-year-old man who had challenged him for not wearing a mask. He is said to have stabbed the 77-year-old before fleeing the scene and eventually being caught by police, who ended up shooting him. One of the things that's upsetting about this story is that it's part of a wider narrative that's being played out by mainstream media, in that non-mask wearers are quickly becoming the aggressors in almost every incident that's being reported. When, in my opinion, although there are plenty of cranks out there, it seems to be more likely that the mask wearers are those instigating these incidents. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have their opinion, but I think confronting any stranger about their behaviour is always going to be a risky business. And by the way, I'm not condoning violence, but I've seen plenty of videos coming from the USA where mask wearers are the initial aggressors, to the point of assaulting people, which obviously is going to cause tension and result in a retaliation. You see, my point is that if you are a believer that masks will protect you, then you are likely one of those people who are washing their hands when they get home and taking other measures, for example, wiping all of your products before you put them away in your cupboards. And that's absolutely fine. But if you're taking those precautions, then how is someone not wearing a mask going to be a problem? Anyone who's at risk should have the choice themselves to wear a mask and take precautions or not. Isn't it down to them? I mean, isn't it your safety and responsibility? Isn't that why we don't blindly step into the road or in crossing and expect the drivers to be the ones to be responsible for our safety? I'm concerned that certain types of people are going to cause others many problems. I can see people with mental health being targeted by others. I can see people with medical issues being targeted, losing their ability to go into shops lawfully, and in some cases losing their lives, not from COVID, but from people who will take it upon themselves to try and enforce others to be responsible for someone else's health. By all means, wear a mask. By all means, wash your hands 20 times a day. Burn your clothes when you get home after being out if you have to. That's entirely your choice. But what's not your choice is how others either choose to have or not to wear a face covering. And apart from putting yourself at more risk by confronting people, Could well be that you may be wasting police time when real actual crimes are being committed, and they have then been called because someone wants to be responsible for their own health rather than the health of others. And on that note, if we look at the reasonable excuses why people may not have to wear a mask, and I still don't like that word excuses as it intimates you've done something wrong, even the list given by government doesn't make any sense and simply compounds the issue of confusion. The reasons given by government why masks should be used in shops is because you are coming into contact with lots of different people, whereas in a work setting you're around the same people regularly, therefore don't need to wear them. But an employee of a transport operator, when they are acting in the course of their employment, or other person providing services to the transport operator, or a constable or police community support officer acting in the course of their duty, or an emergency responder such as a paramedic or fire officer acting in the course of their duty, or an official, for example, a border force officer acting in the course of their duties, all come into contact with tens if not hundreds of different people every day, which is the reason given for this move in the first place. But they're all exempt. Does that make any sense? When many of these, especially the police, are emergency workers, are most at risk of transferring any infection onto other people. Anyway, the 5 reasonable excuses given by government are as follows. Physical and mental impairments. If putting on or wearing a face covering would cause you severe distress. Those with breathing difficulties. If you are with or providing assistance to someone who relies on lip reading to communicate. If you need to eat, drink or take medication, you can remove your face covering. Or if you are asked to remove your face covering by a police officer or other official, which I have to say I don't agree with unless they're wearing a mask. 28-year-old James Hurst, the former West Bromwich Albion and Wrexham defender, has been given a community order ordering him to carry out 160 hours of unpaid work after being convicted of coughing at police Scotland constables and telling them that he had COVID. Hurst was arrested after being stopped by police over an outstanding speeding warrant. As police attempted to handcuff him, he is alleged to have told police he was going to spit on them and then started coughing at the police in the garden of his partner's home in Drumchapel, Glasgow in April. Now, let's have a look at some similar coughers who have been convicted, because I think a community order for someone who was a pro footballer, whereas jail for everyone else, is pretty disgusting and shows a disparity between dealing with different social classes. And these are just on one page of Google. I certainly think coughing in people's faces deserves a retaliatory slap, so I don't condone anyone doing it. But I also don't condone the way that people are treated differently based on their class or background. The fact that Hurst has ultimately been let off for what police are crying about others doing is a slap in the face to the rest of society and isn't going to help repair any relations between the public and the police. A 6-year-old girl was hit by a vehicle that was being pursued by West Yorkshire Police on July the 10th on a stretch of road that saw another incident where a cyclist was hit by a vehicle being pursued by police less than a month before in the Alwoodley area of North Leeds. But despite the location and the fact both incidents involved police pursuits, the coincidence has been described as random by a West Yorkshire Police spokesperson. The spokesman said that due to it being random, there will be no internal and independent process for reviewing police tactics. The first incident happened on June 20th and involved a Lexus being chased by police. It then hit a van and a cyclist, sending the van onto its roof. The van driver escaped unharmed and the cyclist received minor injuries. A 40-year-old man who was driving the Lexus was later arrested. The second was on July the 10th and involved a Ford Fiesta, which was suspected of having false plates. The driver had failed to stop for police and had been pursued from Horsforth. The tailed car hit a 6-year-old girl who was crossing a pedestrian crossing at a junction between King Lane and Nursery Lane, and she was taken to hospital but thankfully didn't suffer any serious injuries. The 46-year-old driver was arrested and later released on bail pending further inquiries. The force spokesman said the West Yorkshire Casualty Reduction Partnership regularly deploys mobile safety cameras to King Lane, and the local neighbourhood policing team regularly carries out proactive policing operations to target speeding and antisocial use of motor vehicles in the area, which is a typical police tactic. Let's try and get people to stop thinking about the fact that these incidents were not related to general speeding or antisocial use of a motor vehicle and were in fact due to the vehicles being chased by police. Oxfordshire Police Constable PC Laura O'Connor has been given a final written warning. There's nothing unusual about that. However, this was for a gross misconduct, which should, under normal circumstances, result in dismissal. The allegations that she lacked integrity and that she breached the policing code were proven on the 1st of July after the misconduct hearing was called due to an incident when she was a student police constable. O'Connor had been messaging her boyfriend on WhatsApp before the vehicle she was in and the training constable she was with decided to pull over a car, which turned out to be her boyfriend in December 2018, after she was messaging him, making arrangements to see him and telling him where she was. Her tutor decided to stop his car, but PC O'Connor didn't say that she knew the driver or that they were in a relationship. During the stop, she was given the task of searching his name on the police database. After the stop, she then sent more WhatsApp messages to him and said that her colleagues wanted to search his car. Actions that were so serious that she was found guilty of gross misconduct. But instead of being dismissed, she was allowed to keep her job with just a final written warning. West Mercia Police Chief Constable Anthony Bangham has said that his officers won't be taking the knee in order to maintain a neutral position, saying they would remain objective as with any other protest. After acknowledging that other forces have given their constables discretion, he said his would stand up proud and police Black Lives Matter demonstrations, the same way we would with any other protest. His comments came at a Q&A session hosted by West Mercia Police Crime Commissioner John Campion, who said, "I've seen firsthand your officers policing some quite difficult far-right protests, and the power of the impartiality of the police is a very good sign that our community should see." Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner Tracy Onslow asked, "A lot of our residents will have seen demonstrations and marches around BLM. What kind of dialogue would the police have with local communities around those sorts of events?" Bangham said, "Yes, we have an extensive dialogue, although the focus at the moment, rightly, is on the recent activity. If you go back further, a lot of our towns and cities, Worcester, Telford for example, have experienced marches and demonstrations, difficult, challenging situations around the EDL marches and various other things. It's that dialogue, that relationship that I think has given our communities, who often feel very vulnerable, the confidence that we are supporting them and able to take account of their needs." Bangham said his frontline officers had to police large gatherings with opposing sides and sometimes faced hostility. He said, "We looked at the fact that different forces had taken different positions and also had to look at early stages of how some of those protests, accepting that it's a minority, turn violent. And there's no way I'm going to put police officers in a position where they make themselves more vulnerable. My position is quite clear. We would be standing up proud as police officers. We would be completely objective, and those positions of those officers would be the same way we would in any other protests. We will not be taking the knee. It's completely impartial and maintaining our neutral position." Now, I've got to say, although some of you may be shocked, that I do respect that decision from Chief Constable Bangham. Police are supposed to be impartial at all times and treat everyone the same without fear or favour. I'm not against people taking the knee if they want to, but as police, doing so does undermine their role as impartial and has been the reason for some tension between the police and other protesters. I genuinely hope that West Mercia Police stick to these values of policing, and maybe they will start to look at other areas that need work on and take a reasonable stance against those. Imagine being pre-convicted of a crime you have not committed. This is a very real situation now, as legislation introduced in January has allowed North Wales Police to do just that by issuing a stalking prevention order. The stalking prevention order allows for early police intervention in some circumstances pre-conviction to address stalking behaviours before they escalate and cause more serious harm to the victim. Which, of course, preventative measures are a good thing. But is convicting someone of a crime they have yet to commit or be found guilty of committing a good idea? And can it simply be another tool to be used by police and prosecution services? I do agree that stalking has been known to end with devastating consequences, but so do many other crimes, and by allowing people to be convicted of something they haven't yet done rather than taking other measures could be a seriously misused weapon against people. Stalking and harassment is one of those incidents that can be used by ex-partners to purposely affect their ex. I was given a harassment order myself weeks after leaving my youngest boy's mum for cheating on me, simply because I was trying to get to speak to my kids, and she used the fact that although she purposely didn't answer the phone to me, several missed calls a day from my number was used to actually make it an offence to even try and speak to my kids for fear of being arrested. I seriously believe this is something that will be abused, and as a new tool, like every tool the police get their hands on, they seem to actively search out incidents where they can try and use it, and pre-convicting someone of a crime they may not even have thought about takes away the entire innocent until proven guilty in a court of law aspect of our judicial system. Something that seems to have many people working on its destruction as it is. Ex-RAF serviceman 35-year-old Andrew Kerr has pleaded guilty at Dundee Sheriff Court to taking or permitting to be taken indecent images of children between November 27, 2012 and July 18, 2018 at RAF Lossiemouth and other locations. The charges are in relation to allegations that between April 7th and 22nd, 2017 in Elgin, Kerr incited another woman into assaulting a child by sitting and standing on them. He also admitted a third charge of inciting a woman in Arbroath to assault two children by sitting and standing on their bodies between June 17 and 21st, 2018. Kerr managed to persuade one woman over Facebook to engage in the abuse and share the clips with him with the promise that she would be paid. In one reply to the woman he says, gives a new meaning to babysitting, ha ha. Sick c***. After searching his room at the base, military officers uncovered a stash of child pornography. The fiscal depute said information had come to light. He had met the complainer through Facebook and posed as a film stuntman. He said this was to be used as a stunt for a film. The accused incited her to sit on two babies in return for payment. She sat on them and uploaded several videos. The accused gave her detailed instructions on how to do this and asked her to send the videos, adding that she would be paid commission for the clips. Kerr sent the woman a video of how he wanted the acts to be carried out. The woman uploaded 7 videos, which lasted between 4 seconds and 40 seconds. The footage showed the children were initially laughing and giggling, but became extremely distressed and tried to escape after the woman applied more of her weight. During the conversations on Messenger, Kerr said, if you do the scene a couple of times, we can give you advice. If you make it a couple of times, you could make it into a montage, which would make you more money. Get a good holiday from it. Ha ha. After a medical examination of the children and examination of the clips, it was found that no actual harm was caused to the children, although it was concluded that they would have been in danger if they had continued any longer. Kerr's IP address was traced to his room in Cyprus following intelligence received by the RAF. He told military officers after the discovery of indecent images, I am guilty of the offences, I've done it since my mother died. Devices both at his room and at his home in Dunoon, Argyllshire, found a total of 102 images and 67 videos of children being abused. Some of these included adults crushing or sitting on children. His sentence has been deferred until September by Sheriff Alistair Carmichael, who placed him on the sex offenders register. Kerr's bail order was allowed to continue, although I haven't been able to find out what the bail order is, so I don't know if he's been remanded or not. Big thank you to all of the supporters of the channel, especially the channel Patreon supporters. Your support is truly, truly appreciated and really does help. And that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.
Good night, all.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.